Kuigar Nervod. I am Tad Larkin, the lore master of Manda-LORE, and today I'll be digging through the archives to bring you technical readouts and the history of the Basilisk war droid.
The mighty Basilisk war droid, or Basilisk in Manda-LORE, was originally manufactured by the ancient Basiliskans, and then later appropriated for use by the Mandalorian Crusaders. Ranging from 3 to 5 meters in height, the Basilisk war droid is a Class 4 droid, capable of operating on its own with its sophisticated droid brain, but was more often than not paired with a Mandalorian warrior, who guided the droid as one would guide a living mount. Mandalorian riders would often heavily customize their Basilisk war droid mounts. However, a typical Basilisk sported an armament of at least 2 laser cannons, 2 shatter missile launchers, pulse wave cannons, and a series of shockwave generator rods mounted in the droid's head, for lack of a better term, capable of ripping through an enemy vessel's armored hull. All Basilisk war droids had at least 2 arms with durable razor-sharp claws at each end, enabling the droid to walk on land, and in between the stabilizing tail was mounted 2 engines, capable of propelling the droid to speeds of up to 550 kilometers per hour in atmosphere as well as in space. The energy produced to power a Basilisk war droid is procured in a rather atypical way. Instead of recharging power cells like most droids, or traditional refueling like most starfighters, the Basilisk war droid was fed, for lack of a better term, energy-rich low-cap plasma, mixed with unrefined narcoleth. Though the Basilisk typically carried only its Mandalorian master into battle, there is room for one other passenger besides the pilot, as well as cargo space enough for 100 kilograms and a day's worth of consumables. 4,017 galactic standard years before the Battle of Yavin, the Mandalorian Crusaders, under Mandalore the Indomitable, had made their way into the Core Worlds region, pillaging and plundering every world in their path in the name of Darasum Kote, eternal glory. Among them was the world of Basilisk. Unlike the other planets that fell victim to Mandalorian crusades, the Basiliskans weren't about to let their world fall to the brutish barbarians, nor let their race become extinct like so many others without a fight. So, in the ultimate scorched ground policy, they poisoned their own world, which effectively denied the Mandalorians their prize. However, they made off with an even better one: their master-crafted war droids, among other vehicles and vessels. The Mandalorians quickly recognized the droids' potential as war mounts, as well as to taxi warriors into and out of the fray. However, only the most capable and respected warriors of each clan were given the honor of choosing a Basilisk to ride into battle. A deep empathetic bond was developed between a Basilisk and its rider, becoming almost a natural extension of its master, and when a Basilisk fell in battle, it was given the same respect and reverence as a Mandalorian warrior who fought bravely until the end. However, with a slight variation. Instead of cremation, as most Mandoade who pass on to the Manda are put to rest, non-functional Basilisk war droids were often jettisoned into nearby stars. In 4000 BBY, now riding their Basilisk war droids into battle, the Mandalorians continued their push into the core, and eventually the deep core, but upon encroaching on the Empress Teta system, the fallen Jedi Knight Keldroma, who had just seized control of the system, issued a challenge to Mandalore: meet him in single combat, and if he won, the Mandalorians would have to leave his borders. Mandalore the Indomitable agreed, and on the planet of Kuar, he and Keldroma dueled. However, upon defeating the Mandalore, he spared his life, and made him and his Mandalorian Crusaders servants of his will, and of his new Sith master, Exar Kun. Mandalore's Basilisk riders spearheaded the assaults on the Republic shipyards at Forost, as well as the galactic capital at Coruscant, the latter of which resulted in a Mandalorian retreat. The war wasn't over yet, though, and Exar Kun ordered Mandalore and his Crusaders to attack the Republic world of Onderon, where Basilisk war droids were pitted in aerial combat against the ferocious Onderonian beast riders. Republic reinforcements turned the tide of the battle, forcing Manda-LORE to sound the retreat. However, Manda-LORE the Indomitable's Basilisk war droid was shot down, and he crash-landed on Onderon's infamous moon, Duxon, where he was torn apart by wild beasts, and another Mandalorian warrior recovered Manda-LORE's mask, becoming Manda-LORE the Ultimate. Just as they had served Manda-LORE the Indomitable and his Crusaders during the Great Sith War, the Basilisk war droids continued to serve under Manda-LORE the Ultimate and his Neo-Crusaders, as they began conquering, raiding, and pillaging outlying worlds on the Outer Rim, either exterminating or recruiting their populaces to bolster the Mandalorians' numbers. In 3976 BBY, the Mandalorians began assaulting worlds bordering the Galactic Republic to gauge their strength, their Basilisk war droids spearheading operations at Althir, Cathar, and Flashpoint Station. By the Battle of Vanquo in 3964, the Mandalorians began to bear their full might against the Republic. The Mandalorian Wars were now in full swing, and every Republic soldier and pilot learned to fear the Basilisk war droid. In quite an impressive feat, in just 2 standard years, the Mandalorians managed to carve a large chunk out of the galactic northeastern quadrant of the Republic, and pushed as far as Duro in the Core Worlds region. That was until 3961 BBY, when a group of Jedi called the Revanchists, in defiance of the Jedi Council's orders to stay out of the war, began making headway against their Mandalorian foes. The Revanchists, under Jedi Master Revan, cooperated with Republic forces to push back the Mandalorians, and in 3960, lured them into a trap at Malachor V in Old Sith space, where he unleashed the mass shadow generator that killed a majority of the Mandalorian fleet, as well as a good portion of his own. Given that Manda-LORE the Ultimate was also slain, not by the mass shadow generator, but by single combat with Revan, the aftermath of Malachor V proved disastrous for the Mandalorians, scattering the clans and leaving them in disunity, as Manda-LORE's mask was also hidden by Revan, so that no one else could unite the clans against the Republic. Among the demands that Revan issued to the Mandalorians, one of the most insulting was that they were to dismantle their Basilisk war droids, most of which complied, but there were a few clans that flat out refused, and secretly hid their bionic steeds away. After the Jedi Civil War from 3959 to 3956 BBY, as a favor to the Mandalorian mercenary Canderous Ordo for his help reclaiming his memory and helping defeat Darth Malak, Revan aided Ordo in reclaiming Mandalore's mask, and accompanied his clan to the frozen Outer Rim world of Rekiad. Utilizing their Basilisk war droids in their baggage train, the members of Clan Ordo found themselves ambushed by a rival clan with their own Basilisk war droids. But after a brief skirmish, Canderous and Clan Ordo were victorious, and he would eventually go on to recover Mandalore's mask. Canderous, now Manda-LORE the Preserver, set to work reuniting the clans, establishing his base of operations on Duxon, and around 3951 BBY, his camp was visited by the Jedi exile, Mitra Surik, and he let her use one of his modified Basilisk war droids to transport her and her party to Onderon to intervene in its ongoing civil war. Following the conclusion of the Dark Wars, we see little use of Basilisk war droids in ensuing conflicts, partly because of the sheer amount that were destroyed during the Mandalorian disarmament after the Mandalorian Wars, and partly because of innovations in new technologies made them obsolete. The modified Basilisk war droid that Canderous Ordo lent to Mitra Surik during the Dark Wars would eventually serve as the basis for Mandal Motor's Star Vipers that were famously used by the Black Sun Syndicate and the Zon Consortium during the Galactic Civil War. We do, however, have record of one last surviving Basilisk war droid in use in combat just prior to the outbreak of the Galactic Civil War in 2 BBY, when the Mandalorian mercenary Chapa no Timo kidnapped Imperial Senator and rebel conspirator Garmbal Iblis, who was saved by Vader's secret apprentice, Galen Merrick. By the Empire's decline and the rise of the New Republic, the Basilisk war droids were all but legends, collecting dust as museum exhibits and cultural artifacts. However, in 40 ABY, a new vein of Beskar ore was discovered on Manda-LORE, and Mandal Motors began designing a new starfighter for Boba Fett's Mandalorian protectors, named the Basilisk, in honor of the ancient war droids of their ancestors.
This transmission was commissioned by Logan Tyler on Patreon. If you have any suggestions for future transmissions, don't be afraid to drop a comment. Special thanks to my patrons, Wildcat144, Zexon, JTroops1997, Wirefox Terrier, Dave the Grave, Sim the Despot, Matt Patton, Trav, Oct2274, Cal Scarata, Angry Mutt, Chris Evans, Mayo4, Moonman, Noah Shane 45, Logan Tyler, Alexander Williams, and John Hollingsworth. If you'd like to support this channel, please visit my Patreon to find out how. Link is in the description. In the meantime, keep your comm channels open for future transmissions, and don't forget to subscribe. Tad Larkin, out.